everyone, and welcome back to the Target Transfers podcast, the #1 heat printing podcast in the world. Today, we have a very exciting guest for you. We have got Danielle, the social media marketing manager for Stahls in America. And we're going to talk a little bit today about marketing for your heat printing business. So whether you're thinking of starting a business or you've just started one and don't really know where to start, or if you've been doing it for a while and you need some tips, we're going to cover a whole load of topics today. So yeah, if you're keen to hear about more marketing for businesses, then keep watching. Danielle, thanks for joining us today. How are you?
Hi, great. Thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk about this. I think it's important for our customers.
I think it is. And I think it's perfect and very in sync that we've got you joining us as well, seeing as you, along with Carly, run the social media for Stahls. So everybody that's watching will be very interested to get some insights from the masterminds behind Stahls US accounts.
Yeah, we're happy to be here.
Good. Where did we want to start today then, Andy? You got anything?
It's just kind of a quick question, Danielle. Is that obviously we're going to get into some real detail about marketing 101 today and how to get started. But I was wondering, is there anything that you've learned as the Stahls channels were growing? So do you remember what the Stahls social accounts looked like when you first joined? I mean, half of them didn't even exist.
Right.
I know the same for myself for Target Transfers. It wasn't even an Instagram when I first started here.
Yeah, me either.
No?
I didn't know that.
True. Yeah, no TikTok, no Pinterest, maybe Pinterest, but yeah, been doing it a long time. Have seen a lot of channels come through. So yes, the difference from then till now, completely different. Yeah. What do you remember, Andy, from that time?
I think that's it. Yeah, for me, when I first started, we had a Facebook. We kind of had Twitter a little bit, but there was no Instagram, and there was not really anyone in our space talking about heat printing either, which I thought was quite interesting. Over the last few years, it's really changed a lot in terms of how we perceive the business and how our customers are interacting with the business. I think where, especially in the UK, where it's always been a kind of a bit of a mindset of, oh, don't tell anyone what you're doing, don't give any secrets away, keep them to yourself. There's no kind of idealism about growing the industry, but actually what we've noticed over the last couple of years is that those that are kind of actually more vocal about how they do things and why they do things and what they're interested in are actually more successful. They're not losing business, they're gaining business, but they're also helping the industry grow as well, which I think is really encouraging. It's been really interesting to see how people have changed their approach, and things like the Heat Press for Profit group, which Stahls sponsor. If anyone's not part of that, they should really join that for one. But when you see the successes people have had and the way they're marketing their business differently, the way they're talking about it, because a Hotronics machine is the best machine on the market. It's like that's a badge of honor to have one of those. Using Target Transfers or Transfer Expresses again is a badge of honor. It shows your product is high quality. So actually talking about it is been a real boom for a lot of our customers. And I think it's starting to be seen even more of in the UK, but in the US, it's much more of a mindset already. The entrepreneurial spirit in the US, the way to get things done. That kind of share the love a little bit about how they do it, I think is what's been really interesting. So I'm really excited to have you on today, because I think the UK is starting to catch up a bit with the way the US fulfillment companies or brands are marketing their business. So I think there's a lot that our customers in the UK are going to be able to learn from this podcast.
Great. Yeah. I remember in the very beginning with Facebook. So we had Facebook and Twitter as well. And I remember some people saying, oh, who wants to follow a business on social media? And now it's the norm. It's absolutely the norm. So, yeah.
For anyone that's either has maybe a side hustle or a smaller sort of startup printing business, or for anyone that's maybe thinking about starting their own business, when you look at the volume of content and the amount of small businesses that are producing content around this space, it can be quite overwhelming to look at initially, especially if you, like I say, new to the industry and you maybe don't understand all of the aspects, or you have a specific niche. Is there anything that you'd recommend people to do when they first start out in marketing a printing business? Because I can certainly imagine certain people having fears or insecurities.
Quite overwhelming as well.
Yeah, it can be quite an overwhelming space to come into. So where would you recommend that people start for marketing a printing business?
I would say the very first thing to figure out is who you're marketing to. Who is your audience, right? So many people say, oh, everybody. And unfortunately, while we want to sell to everybody, it's not always feasible. When you say everybody, are they 13-year-olds and their parents? Or are they, 13-year-olds don't have, a lot of 13-year-olds don't have money. Some do. Some YouTubers have a lot of money. But I really believe that figuring out who your target market is first is the key. So you can still sell to everybody, but figuring out, sort of narrowing down the audience, right? So is it cheer moms? Is that who you're selling to? Is it football players, whether it's soccer for you guys or football for you guys or soccer for us, right? It's figuring that out though, and then it will be so much easier to market to that group, because when you're trying to talk to everybody, you really are talking to nobody, right? So
yeah, and I suppose it's how you talk to people as well.
Yes, absolutely. You'll talk very differently to a cheer mom than you will to, say, a drag racer or, even a football coach, right? You're going to talk differently to the football coach. What's important to a football coach is very different than what is important to the cheerleading squad, right? You have, football players have, there's tackling involved, at least U.S. football. There's tackling involved and things like that, where you want numbers and letters that will stick to the jersey and go with abrasion and things like that, where the cheer squad usually wants something glittery or something flashy that's going to show on the side of the field, right? So you're going to need to figure out who you're targeting first, in my opinion. Again, you can sell to everybody, but if you narrow it down a little bit, that'll be so much easier. The other thing to think about too is, once you've actually narrowed down the target, figure out where they are. Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Maybe they're on TikTok. So it's not just where you want to be, because I think we all have a favorite channel, right? I mean, I do, right? So, but
what is your favorite channel, Danielle? As the social media marketing manager, what is your favorite social media channel?
I love Instagram. I just love how visual it is. I love Facebook. It's really been my baby. I've really kind of grown it organically and things like that, but I still love Instagram. It's a very engaged group of people, which I love. But I love them all. I have to, but anyway, so figuring out where your target is. While I love Instagram, a lot of our clientele is still on Facebook, right? Where people say Facebook is dead. It's not dead. There's billions of people still there. But again, you have to figure out where the group is, and that's where you should start.
I do think a lot of people assume that because they get high engagement on Instagram, and they don't on Facebook, that's where their sales will come from. But we know from experience the majority of the audience and general custom base is on Facebook. Whether or not they like or comment on something doesn't mean they're not there. And that is where majority of our ads, for example, go. Instagram is fantastic and there are a lot of customers on there, but I do think specifically for heat printers, there are a lot more sales come through Facebook than Instagram.
Yes, I would agree. I absolutely agree. I still recommend that everybody have a Facebook page. And when I say page, I mean a business page. If you're going to be in business, open a business page, not a profile, a personal profile. It's not the same. You'll get different, you'll be able to have analytics, details of what's happening on your page, things of that nature. You'll be able to do ads if you want to do ads down the road. A personal profile won't offer that. Plus, if you have a business page, right, it's where you can put your business address, you can put your website if you have one, you can do all these things, and then you can share onto your personal page. But we all know not all of our friends and family want to hear about our business all the time. It just is what it is. People like to be supportive for a moment, but you're really are they your target market? Are they the niche that you want to deal with, right? Or that you want to attract? Maybe, maybe not. So it's good to have something separate.
Yeah, I think that's something that our MD learned in the early days. Our original Facebook was a personal, and obviously we have a business page now and have done for quite a few years. But I remember when I first joined and I discovered the personal one, I half laughed. I was like, I can't believe this is how it all started on a personal profile.
But I think that back in the day when it started, though, I don't even know that there were business profiles really in the very beginning of it, right? And then that it evolved into that. And then I think people were just like, oh, I don't need that. I already have a personal one. And then
that's a really good point, actually. Yeah, I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah. So
something else that you said to me a while ago as well is when you're on social media, speak to people as if you're talking to them in person, not as if you're selling to them on a pitch. And that's something I've never forgotten, that every time we do social media work, I always read it back and I think, does this sound like what I say to somebody if they were sat in front of me? And I think that's a really important message for anyone that has social media, especially if it's a business account, and you're trying to reach people, because like you've said many a times before, people don't go on social media to be sold to. They go on there to be entertained and to escape and have a laugh at something or see a post from family or friends. And it's very difficult and quite invasive to be harshly selling to people when they're in that space. So how you talk to them and go about it is really important for sales and for our branding as well.
Yeah, I really believe that for businesses specifically, people need to know, like, and trust you first before they're going to purchase from you, right? And if you're always selling, they're going to walk away. I mean, I know I've said this to you many times, Molly, with these conversations, but I really believe in this, that I think of social media like a cocktail party. When you go to a cocktail party or any type of reception or something, and you walk up to a group of people and someone is just talking about themselves incessantly, right? What do? You kindly walk away. Maybe don't even say anything, just disappear, because who wants to listen to someone always talking about themselves? A conversation is a two-way street. So I think what happens a lot of times too with businesses is they think, oh, social media, it's just another place for me to sell all the time. Where, yeah, you can sell there, and yes, money is there to be made for sure, but it's not your website, right? Social media, as we've said already, is to be social. So some of the things that we go along with or whatnot is, we at Stahls, our rule is 80-20. That's our, 80% of our content is entertaining, educating, fun, silly, questions. We love to learn about our customers, right? And it may be as simple as, what's your favorite drink, right? What do you like to listen to when you're heat printing? Things like that. That helps us learn about our customers so we can relate to them better, right? As opposed to buy this, right? That's no fun. Who wants to go to a page that says that? No one. But if we can make you laugh in the middle of a very stressful time that you're keep printing a bunch of t-shirts and you come to our page or you see us in your feed and you're like, oh my gosh, that is hilarious. Our job is done for the day, right? Because that's what you want. You want, and we'll talk about our products for sure. We'll teach you how to use our products, but we're not shoving it down your throat saying, buy this. We're giving you opportunities to learn how to use it in different ways that will help you profit. That's where we're at. We have always prided ourselves on education. There's no question there.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we really do try and focus on across not even just our social medias, but our YouTube and even our website.
Absolutely.
There's so much educational content on there, which is really important for everybody because, like you say, social media is a two-way conversation. Well, a relationship between a supplier and a brand is a two-way street as well. You can't have, the better our customers do, the better our business does. So there's no point just selling them something and then if they either have issues with it or they want to try something with it or they're interested in something else and going, no, you've bought now, I'm not interested anymore. Same with heat printers and their customers. They need to learn what their customers like and what they don't like and engage with them so that they can build that long-term relationship for future business as well, which as I say, we've done sort of our 2-minute Tuesdays have come out on our YouTube recently, which is just a really short snippet, but it's something new and something different every week. So for people that don't necessarily have a lot of time or they want to just quickly watch something and they don't want to have to skip through to just get to the key points, they can just watch a quick video. But it's an educational video. It's not just buy this product, it's this is how you do this is how you make this more efficient, this higher quality. And I think that across socials as well has a big impact.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that what Danielle and Molly just been talking about there about these, and the 80-20 was a great way to look at it. But obviously we're here to educate our customers, but whoever's listening to this is in a position to educate their customers as well. So if you're doing fulfillment, you can educate your customers on absolutely everything you do, whether it's the t-shirts or hoodies you use, the transfers you're using, the presses using, or anything you're doing, how clean your workspace is. It could be absolutely anything that proves how great you are, or you can even educate them on what to look for with a supplier like yourselves. There's so much educational content out there that you don't even realize is valuable to your customer and interesting to them. Or likewise, if you're a clothing brand that's listening to this and you're just purely buying our stuff and selling to an end user, but you can educate on your brand and if it's the products are ecologically friendly or whatever it may be, or just a kind of day in the life, whatever it is you're doing, or like you say, Daniel, just something that's completely different to the actual product, but it's something there just to break up the day. It's something that's perhaps culturally relevant to your type of brand, but it's still just something to, take people's minds off things. Any business can apply that logic to their business.
Absolutely. Another thing for clothing brands and whatnot is how do you style your outfits, right? If you're selling shirts that have graphics on it, how are you styling it? Will you style it with jeans and boots? Will you style it with a shacket? That's a new thing here.
I love a shacket. I think that's a new thing.
Yeah. So, but that's fun too to see, and then encourage your customers to take photos as well and tag you in them, and then ask if you can reshare that because again, it's people proof, right? Someone else has purchased from you. So if you now share that on your social media, that's marketing and saying, hey, we're not the only ones saying that we're great. Our customers love us too. If there's testimonials or if there's reviews on anywhere on your site, on your even on your socials, if someone says, hey, I love this t-shirt I bought, put that out there. It's not I guess the content doesn't always have to come just from you, right? And that's something else to think about. Like if you're a local brand, think about sharing events that are happening. Be a source for your followers, right? Be a source of what's happening where you're going to be. If you're going to be doing events, share that out there, right? But again, I think it's I see it so much that people only talk about themselves. So it's that balance of figuring out how to talk around yourself, but not all, look at me, I'm so great, and we're having this sale, and this is all we ever talk about on any of our pages, right? It's really not interesting. Like quotes, honestly, quotes are fun and funny. There's some other things to think about too, like calendar events. Halloween's coming up, right? Talk about that. If you have some designs about Halloween, talk about that. Ask your followers if they love Halloween, or what do they do for Halloween, or if they need what their favorite costume they ever wore, right? Or made, or whatever. But think in those terms, like when there's calendar things happening, and then think about conversational things too, of your favorite autumn drink. I've already said that, but your favorite, I don't know, things to do on the weekend. What are you guys up to this weekend? That's a simple question, but a lot of people love to talk about themselves and tell you about it. That's what you want. You want that engagement. Another part of that too, so there's strategy behind all this. It's not just, it's fun and it's great for our customers and things like that, but it's also strategy, because the more people are commenting on your posts, the more people will see it in their feeds, right? On every channel, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or even, TikTok, whatever. It's the more people are engaging, the more they are bumped up in feeds, and we'll see more of your content along the way. So it's important to engage. But again, here's another thing too. If people are commenting on your posts, don't just leave them. Because again, think about if someone came up to you and said something straight up to you and you just walked away. You'd never do that in person, right? But that's really what you're doing if you just leave a comment hanging. Even if it's a hey thanks or a smiley face or something, acknowledge people, because it's a person behind that computer or phone who are commenting, took the time to say, hey, I love this, or hey, even we get a lot of the flame, hot, whatever. We respond with that because we're acknowledging that you came to our page or you saw us in your feed and you said, you took 2 seconds out of your life to communicate with us, right? So we're going to acknowledge you, as opposed, I think of that. If you really think about that, it's so silly, but if you think about the reality, you'll never do it again.
I think you're spot on there, and it made me smile, because the amount of times I've had a conversation with someone just in emojis on our page, like when we post the funny memes and things, and people just comment laughy faces, and then you respond something else back, and you just end up having conversations in emojis, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, perfect. But again, at least you're responding, right? There's so many times we see people out there that are not responding, and it's like, okay, well, you just completely ignored them.
And it's good for engagement as well, isn't it? As much as, yes, it's polite to acknowledge them, and like you say, you wouldn't just walk away if somebody was speaking to you in real life, but it helps boost your posts and your page. The more comments, even if they're between back and forth, that's why you try and start conversations on posts, because it boosts them to more people, which then in turn grows your business. And there's always multiple reasons behind why you do certain things on social media. And that made me think of all of the memes that we share. I know we sometimes share similar ones or even the same ones to our different audiences.
Sure.
But I think that definitely helps break up our customers' weeks. If they're having a stressful week or they're busy printing and they see something that's funny and relatable and they can go, oh, that's so me this week. I think that really resonates with people, rather than just, oh, have you tried this vinyl? And they're in the middle of trying to work out another one and they're like, oh, I can't deal with more than one at the same time. And I think just having those like lighthearted posts go out makes all the difference, especially like towards
Absolutely.
Thursday, Friday.
Yes, for sure. I think it's also very important. Sorry, Andy, I know you want to talk.
He keeps moving his microphone up, like.
But I believe having it be relatable, right? So if you know your market, who you're speaking with, you'll understand what's important to them or what will make them laugh or what will help them, right? Again, it all goes back to who you're speaking with. That's my last point, Andy. Go for it.
You can talk now.
I was just going to echo that, really. I was going to say, you shouldn't underestimate how engaged your customers are with your product. So, for instance, with us, is that you sometimes forget that a lot of our customers might just be one man or woman bands. They're working from their garage and they have no one else to talk about this.
Right.
They know no one wants to talk nerdy heat presses or transfer peeling with them. But when you engage in, they're like, oh, finally, someone who's a kindred spirit, I can talk to you about it.
Yeah.
But it's that ripple effect of like the people who are listening to this is that if they're a brand, I don't know, let's say that you've got a fashion brand or it's a clothing brand and it's based around a particular subject, is that person you're interacting with, you might be one of the first people they found that shares a common interest, and like, finally someone who shares my love of X, I can talk to them about it. So actually they're a lot more engaged with talking to you than you give yourself credit for, probably. And I found that a lot of the customers here. Or if you're doing fulfillment, for instance, you might just be doing some workwear and you think, oh, I'm just doing some polo shirts. It's nothing exciting. But the person who's actually buying it might be there one time of the year they get to buy new workwear for everyone in the office, and it's really exciting. So actually they do want to engage with you because they're like, to them, this is one of the best parts of their year or best parts of their day because they get to do something creative or interesting. So absolutely, interacting with those people, because where our customers might be, it can be a bit of a lonely profession. Your customer might also be a bit of a lonely profession with the way they interact with your products as well.
Yes, there's no question. I mean, I feel that way about Molly when we have meetings. I think, oh, someone else is totally geeking out on social media too. Yeah.
We talk for about an hour just about absolute rubbish, but we love it.
It is. It's wonderful. It's wonderful because you speak my language. That's the whole thing, right? It's that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I do that. Yeah, I do that as well. Like I'll go home, for example, and talk about work and what I do and what a good day I've had. And then after about 5 minutes, everyone's like, you done now? And I'm like, oh. Whereas I come in here and I'm like, Andy, look at this camera. And we'll spend like half an hour talking camera nerd about something else. And it is finding the people that have similar interests to you. And it isn't always going to be your friends and family. And that's fine. And I saw a post the other day that said something along the lines of, don't always expect your friends and family to share your business posts. And I think that's such a valid point, because everybody assumes that, oh, they need to support my business and, oh, just share this post, share that post, which I agree with to an extent. However, that might not be what they're interested in, and they don't have to push your business on their socials in order to be supportive. So finding those people that are interested in that kind of thing and do want to support you and want to talk about it with their followers as well is a whole new ball game.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep.
So I think we've covered a lot of the where do you start content. If anybody has any more questions on that, I just want to dive a little bit deeper into some of the more technical side of organic socials. So before we jumped onto this podcast, we had a discussion about what we wanted to include. And one of those things that came up was the importance of things like cover photos, having the right image sizes, descriptions, alt tags, hashtags, all of the little things that take that bit extra time, but they make all the difference, and people that haven't necessarily done their research on social media marketing might not be as aware of. So is there anything along those lines that you would recommend people try, or things that you've sort of seen people make a difference of? I know certain hashtags on certain reels make a big difference for our post performance.
For hashtags, I think the biggest thing to remember is that you're using, so hashtags are keywords, right, that people put onto posts case people don't know what hashtags are. And some people follow them, but the ones that you use should be used for the people you want to attract, right? So I see, just for an example, I'm Etsy, right? There's a lot of people who make things who use the hashtag Etsy sellers of Instagram. So, would make sense, I guess, because they're Etsy sellers and they're on Instagram, except that I don't believe that they're creating things to attract other Etsy sellers, right? So think in terms of who you're wanting to attract. Also, if you're a local business, right, if you have a brick and mortar, or even if you're out of your home, make sure you're using the hashtag of your city, of your state, country, county, whatever. So it's local, because local people follow local hashtags. And if you're a business in, say, I'm throwing out a city, I'm not sure I'm saying this right, but Kent even, right? So if you're, or Braintree, right? Is that something?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yay, I got it right. So if you're in Braintree, you should be using hashtag Braintree, because you're a local business in Braintree, right? So, but also thinking like, are you a footballer? Like, is that who you want to attract? Use those hashtags that you're wanting to attract, not just random hashtags. Another thing to think about too is the size of the hashtag, the following of a hashtag, because some hashtags are millions of people, and to break into that and to be seen on that hashtag could be tough. It just depends on how many followers you've got, what your content is, things like that, and how often you're posting. Which, don't post a bunch of things all at once. That's considered spam, so please don't do that. No matter what channel you're on, please don't do that. Your followers will unfollow you quickly. But anyway, so the hashtags that you're wanting to use that's just my point, is think of what your ideal customer would be following or wanting to follow, right? That's my advice for that.
Yeah, the different and the different sizes of hashtags have so I researched into this a couple of years ago because somebody mentioned it to me, and I was like, oh, that's actually a really good point. And I think it was between if a hashtag has between 1 post and 1,000 posts attached to it, it was considered micro. If it had between 1,000 and 10,000, 1 to 10,000 is micro, 10,000 to 100,000 is mini, and then anything above 100,000 is considered like the major, the huge hashtag. So I think the sweet spot is in the middle somewhere. I think some people benefit from using some of the smaller ones as well to reach maybe like a really specific audience, but in general the sort of mini ones in between that have sort of maybe a few thousand posts to it, or maybe like 20k or something like that. I think that's the sweet spot.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to say as well that if no one's ever listened to us talk about this before, but localization is massive for heat printers. It's still something that has a massive impact in US, in the UK. A lot of our successful customers are getting referrals from local businesses, and that's kind of the core of their business. So what Danielle says about leveraging anything that can be done locally is a massive win, and is a great way to grow your business still for heat printers.
Yeah. Yep. The what you were saying too, Molly, about the sizes of the hashtags, I think that it's important to use a few of each. Doesn't ever hurt, right? So get some that are low,
not at all,
medium, and high. So you have a mixture of that. So you have chances of being seen in different ways, right?
Oh, yeah, no, I completely agree. I think you're always best to use a mixture of each. My point was purely that your best possibility of engagement or reach to new customers to a decent amount of people, new customers seeing that post would be in that in-between spot. But no, by all means, yeah, the smaller ones are great for niches. The bigger ones are great for hitting that exposure. If you happen to catch a wave and it goes, then go with it. But yeah, no, completely agree. Definitely, mix up the hashtags and add a few different ones in there.
So, and hashtags now are used across the board. Even Facebook, you can use hashtags on Facebook. They started on Twitter and Instagram were the big main ones, but TikTok also, they're everywhere. You were talking about images as well and descriptions, things like that. So cover photos. So this is so I'm thinking cover photos on like Facebook, right? So that's because that's where your main cover photo is. A cover photo should explain what you do in pictures. You can have text in it, of course, as well. But very rarely do people go straight to your page unless they see you in a feed, right? In someone's feed or in the feed and you engage with it. And then you think, oh, I'm going to go check that out. I'm going to go check out this page and see what that's about. Well, that cover photo is your billboard, right? So making sure that you have the right sizes. We talked about that a little bit. You can go on any of the channels, any of the social channels, and they have the sizing for their images for each, for desktop, for mobile, for all sorts of things. One thing to think about with a cover photo in Facebook specifically is trying to keep things into the center of the photo, like have a little bit of a bleed around it, because when you put it onto in the area, when you upload it to Facebook, it's going to change. It depends on what screen you're looking at or whatnot. So your most important information should be in the center area. You can have things, around it, but that's the key there. Make sure you have branding on it. Make sure your pictures are really clear and, look great. Because again, it's like a website, right? It's when people get to it, they want to see it. The other thing that I always recommend is when you're uploading a photo like that, or any photo really, even if you're doing multiple photos in a post, to always have a description on each photo. Because while you're uploading, let's say 4 photos and it's a grouping, if people are looking at that each photo individually, there's not a description on them, right? It's only in the main post. So if they're just seeing like, oh, well, what's that? It might be different from what the actual main post says. Make sure you're doing a description on those. But on your cover photo as well, make sure that people understand what they're looking at, how they can contact you, whether it's a website or a phone number or whatnot, because I think the biggest thing is you need to lead people where you want to go, right? That's so important. People aren't going to click around your page to find your number or your website or whatnot. They're going to look at the photo and say, oh, that's cool. Oh, I can't figure out where to find you. Swipe. They're done, So making sure that it's easy for people to do business with you is really important.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That's something that tripped me up at first, because when I first started in social media marketing, I would upload images to YouTube cover photos, Facebook, and like you say, depending on what platform you're viewing it on, they chop up differently. And even now, I have to get the YouTube template and make sure that everything's within the desktop and mobile set, and it's never completely 100% right, and I upload about 5 different ones before I'm happy with it. But yeah, I think just double checking everything's right. And like you say with the pictures, it's the amount of times that Facebook will just throw up an image to somebody and not the entire post, and then you look at that and go, well, what's that in context to? Right. It does happen. It's not, I don't see it often, but when I do, I sort of stop and go, oh, okay, that's different. And if anything, people look more because it's not the typical post. And then if it's not fully optimized, like you say, they don't know where to go and they'll just flick past it. So
yes. One, we're talking about all the different sizes and things like that. One app that's really great to use for that is canva.com. It's free. Do you guys have that in the UK? You must.
Yeah, no, we have Canva, yeah.
Yeah, because they have all the updated sizing you need. You can just say, I want to create something, and it'll say Instagram post, and it'll say, 1080 by 1080. Done, So that's just one tip, one tool that we use quite a bit.
No, that's a very good one. I will say, though, with Canva, the cover images for YouTube and Facebook, you still have to crop them, like you were saying, centered slightly, because even you fill the whole page, for example, which I did not long ago, uploaded it into Facebook and it chopped everyone's heads off. So even though it's technically the right size for the largest placement of Facebook or YouTube, it might not be for the desktop or mobile version.
Right.
But like you say, majority of the sizing is the right size. It'll be the right quality if the picture's good enough. So yeah, that's a very good tip. If you don't have, I'm 90% sure the majority of people listening to this, if they have small businesses or they market their small business, will have Canva or some form of free marketing graphic design tool. But Canva is the best one.
I would agree. One thing to note too, if you're doing stories if you're doing stories on Instagram and say TikTok, they're different. The where the text goes is different, right? On TikTok, it should be at the top, I believe it is. I can't think right now, but I think it's at the top. Like if you have any captions or anything, it should be at the top. But on Instagram, it should be closer to the bottom, or it could be flipped. But they're not in the same areas. So
in terms of where you should put them or where they automatically appear?
Well, let's say you're creating something in Canva for a story, or even right from the app itself, right? You have to take into account where your handle shows up and where the things on the side show up, the like and the share and all that stuff, and where the caption itself shows up. So sometimes, you put stuff in and it's covered by the caption, or it's cut off at the top because your handle's up there, as opposed to like on TikTok, it's at the bottom. On Instagram, it's at the top.
Yes, no, you are correct, because TikTok has the @ is in the bottom left-hand corner and it's higher up, whereas on Instagram it chops not as much, but it chops from the top to the bottom. So yeah, there's normally guides on, I know, I'm not sure for TikTok, but for Instagram there is. When you go to upload a story, there's normally when you hover like icons and stuff over, you drag it up so far and it will stop and show you the line before you go further. So it's kind of like a idiot's guide, but I mean, if you don't know what it's for, then you could very easily do that wrong.
Yeah. Well,
it's really annoying
sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. That's happened to me before when I've gone to like click on they've put like a link in or a profile and I've gone, I'll have a look at that, and I physically can't click it because it's too high up and I just skip past it.
Yes, for sure.
One other thing I want to mention, which kind of brings it back down to who you're talking to and why, is about why you would focus on 1 to 2 channels versus trying to master all of them at the same time, especially if you are newer to marketing a business, for example.
Well, because it's overwhelming, to be quite honest. We can do everything, but we can't do all things all at once, right?
And to the quality.
Right. So I would recommend, when someone is first starting out, to at least set up pages across the board. You can totally set them up as placeholders, right? So your whoever is on those channels, if they're looking for your company, it will be there, right? With your contact information, with a great photo, with, cover photo, whatnot. And then choose 1 or 2, I would say 2 at the very maximum, channels to have a social media presence. And those 1 or 2 is where your ideal customer goes. If they're sort of 35 to 40 or 50 maybe. It would be actually it'd be more like 44 to 55 or something on Facebook, right? And then 35 to 44 a lot is on Instagram, right? So that's general. But whoever you're looking for, that's where you want to be. And do it well instead of spreading yourself super thin because you're starting a business, right? Social media is great, but you're starting a business. So to give yourself more time and more and to be more productive, right? You want to go where the ideal customer is. So if that's Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or whatnot, first go there, make it great, and then you can expand. But don't wear yourself super thin because you're built, like I said, you're building a business. A business takes a lot of time and energy and space and, all those things that you want to do that well too. One thing I will say though, this has nothing to do with, well, sort of has something to do with social, but I would say the number one tip I would have for any business starting at any point is to start an email list with.
Oh, that's Andy's favorite topic.
I mean, it is. And the reason being is that an email list is something that you own. You don't own Facebook. You don't own Instagram. You don't own TikTok. If any of those channels went away today or are down for any type of time, right? You have no way of getting to your followers. But if you have an email list, you can market to them at any time because you own that, right? So what do you say, Andy? That's your topic.
Oh yeah, I'd wholeheartedly agree with you. Much like going back to your very first point about, you should be talking to your customers where they want to be talked to. That's in the same way that your customers today might migrate somewhere else in the future. So you should have that data because you want, like say, you want to market to them, but you should always be prepared to migrate with them as well. You should always have that core to come back to. And like say, you own the data. You can always interact with them because we've seen it before. I mean, like MySpace is disappeared overnight almost. It seems to be stuck in now, but there was a point in time, and maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, we think, is Twitter going to implode? Because it seemed like there was so much turmoil at the top there, you just don't know what was going to happen there.
Right.
And there'll be, TikTok's here now, and that's now one of the biggest platforms, but it wasn't here yesterday. And a lot of your customers that were on Instagram might have just deleted that app and gone all the way over there, and now that's redundant to you. So if you, like say, you've got the email address and you've always got something to interact with them, and nearly all of these platforms all require an email address. So every single person who's going to be on them is going to have an email address. It's the constant, and it's still, and to be honest with you, email marketing is still very valuable for us, and if done right, it can be valuable for any business as well.
There's a lot of email apps out there too that are free, right? That you can obtain email addresses and automatically market to your list. What are some ways, Andy, that you think people could obtain the email?
I think just something like MailChimp is something very easy to get started with because it will store all your data. It's a very easy platform to create content with. It's drag and drop. So it's something that anyone could, if you've got enough skills to be using Photoshop or Illustrator to create artwork for transfers of vinyl, using something like MailChimp is something you could do in your sleep. So there's no reason not to do it. And it's a great way of storing that data. You can export the data. If you then decide to move on to a more powerful database tool in the future, you can still keep access to it very easily. So I'd say that's a very easy place to get started with. And I think it's something like the first 1,000 contacts on there is free. So, you could get probably, if you're growing business, you could get quite a lot of time before you even have to start paying for it. And even the enterprise versions are not expensive. And then at that point, they're paying for themselves anyway. So that would be a good place to start. Or if you just search MailChimp, and I'm sure there'll be some paid ads that come up for their competitors anyway, and you can have a little bit of a trial with all of them and find the platform that works for you. Because it's very easy to send an email to customers, and you can use all the 80-20 rule we're talking about with educating or making things fun. A lot of the same content you're creating will be able to find a home on one of these email platforms as well. It can be used as an extension of your social media.
Yes, I agree. And to obtain an email address from your customers, I mean, when they order from you, ask them if they'd like to be, kept up to date with what's going on with your company, right? Or if you're at events and things like that, same idea. People can sign up for it right there. How else would they sign up for that, for an email list? You could give a discount, right?
Yeah, give a discount, or you could provide them with some sort of educational value, like an ebook or something like that, that can be educational to them, that provides value.
Yeah, those are all great. Yeah. If anyone else has ideas, you maybe should put it in the comments.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
Cool. I think that's everything we needed to.
Yeah, I think
today. Do you have anything else to add, Danielle, on the social media marketing side of things?
I don't think so. Today we covered a lot. We have.
I do definitely think that we should do another episode in the coming weeks on marketing 201, if you will, because there's definitely a lot of things like batch filming and different people, different platforms, etc. There's a lot more in-depth stuff that we could talk about when you are ready to take that next step with your business marketing. So I think we should definitely do that for people. I think that'd be really useful.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. I think that's one of the most important things. Once you kind of get past the point of, okay, where have I, just to recap a little bit, where is your audience? How do they want to interact? Then it's building back from that. Okay, how often do I need to be posting? And like Molly says, batch posting is something that's very important, but it's not, it's something that's, we can cover into a lot more detail. If you've got questions about social media or something you'd like to know in a follow-up episode, do leave comments or send us a message, because there's lots of things that we can cover, and we're more than happy to help you on your way with that.
I think as well, covering things like ads maybe would be a good idea. Not obviously completely nerdy into it, but maybe just sort of touching base on the basic boost ads and the general location targeting and at what point you should use that and things. I think that would be a good idea. So yeah, we'll definitely get a second episode recorded with you, Danielle, if you're up for that.
Of course.
I've got one last question for you, Danielle, before we go. Because obviously, we could. I'm sure we could talk every week about marketing, because we enjoy.
We talk about it every day.
Right.
Unfortunately, we can't. But for anyone that's listening who's doing a bit of social media for their business, and like, I wish I had a bit more information, or I wish I had someone that could talk to me about this all the time. Is there anyone that you would recommend as an educator that you turn to if you're looking for advice on new platforms or marketing inspiration that perhaps people listening could then go and follow along too?
That's a very good question.
Yes. So that's a great question. There's so many great leaders of social media out there. One of my main ones is socialmediaexaminer.com. It runs the gamut. Right? They talk about everything. They have lots of experts out there. Andy Crestodina is really great too. I can give you links for that as well for your show notes. But he is a content marketer. They run an agency out of Chicago. It's called Orbit Media, and they have really great, easy to follow content. But then there's also, we have a social media ebook as well, how to do social media for t-shirt businesses. So we could get that to you as well. I don't know. Those are my main two, though, Orbit Media and Social Media Examiner. How about you guys? What are your favorites?
Well, mine's heavily focused on video and editing and all of the techie nerdy stuff behind that, which I then put towards our reels and our promo videos and all of that sort of thing. There's quite a few good TikTok accounts as well of people posting just generic video ideas or trending sounds and things like that. I find they're really helpful, but they come and go quite quickly. Like there's so many of them, and I find it quite difficult to decipher which ones are true and which aren't, and who's just doing it for engagement and what's actually accurate. And so I think sources like credited creators on YouTube are really useful for that.
I find the We Are Social Media newsletter really useful. The wersm.com, that's quite a good one because it kind of breaks down what's new in the industry, what's changing, what's different. So I'd encourage people to sign up for that newsletter. But mostly probably just go on to like Spotify or podcast app, just search for a marketing and maybe a phrase that you'll need help with, because there's so many podcasts, there's so many tutorials on YouTube, and just try a couple of them out until you find the one that you can relate to the most, and then make sure you're subscribed and interacting with that content regularly, because there's people who are putting out marketing content 2 or 3 times a week, and you can learn loads and loads from.
Yeah, another one I'll add as well is LinkedIn. There's quite a lot of people and businesses doing solely social media posts, like the PDFs that you swipe, basically Instagram carousels for LinkedIn. And they're quite often useful as well. Like Candy said, industry updates, general ideas there. I find those quite helpful. Just if I'm having a bit of a creative block, I'll sort of flick through that for 20 minutes or so, and it will spark something.
Yeah, that's smart. That's super smart. Yep. Well,
And
if you guys want to come into the Heat Press for Profit Facebook group.
Exactly, yeah. That's just literally what I was about to say.
It was on the tip of Andy's tongue.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks for having our back.
It really is a great place because it's other garment decorators talking about their problems and how they're dealing with those problems. So you can find some kindred spirits in there for sure.
And their successes. We get a lot of people doing very well, and it's very inspiring. Yeah.
I will definitely leave the link to Heat Press for Profit in the description of this video for anyone that wants to go and join. If you're a heat printer, would definitely recommend it. But I think
the only thing I would say as well is that if you'd like to meet some of your fellow heat printers, we do have an exclusive launch event for Bella Canvas on October the 19th here in Braintree. We're doing an afternoon and an evening session. So if you'd like to meet some fellow heat printers.
I thought you were going to say HelloFresh. I don't know why.
I'd like to meet that.
Hello, heat printers. Sorry.
You can meet some people that are in the same boat as you, walking the same path, and you can probably learn a lot from each other in the networking parts. And you'll also get to see brand new Bella Canvas products that no one else has seen in the UK before.
2023 colours, very exciting. And we got the exclusive today of what they are, and you're not going to want to miss it because they are really good. They are beautiful colours.
I wish I was going to be there. That sounds wonderful.
We'll have to send you some behind the scenes footage, Danielle.
Yeah, for sure. Love that.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Danielle. I think this has been so helpful for so many people, and we'll definitely get you back on in a few weeks and do the Marketing 201 to follow up from this for anyone that's interested. And if you haven't already subscribed to the Target Transfers podcast, make sure you do that. If you would like to join either Heat Press for Profit, sponsored by Stahls on Facebook, or follow Stahls on Instagram, any of their socials, I'll put all of that information in the description below. So go over there, say hi, say you're from Target's podcast. We will see you next Thursday with another podcast episode.
Thank you so much for everything. It was so fun, you guys. Loved it.
No, thanks Danielle.
Thanks.